I knelt at the hospital entrance, blood streaming down my legs, but Marcus walked past, holding his idealized love, and said I deserved it. He believed everyone but me. He personally drove me out of our home and publicly humiliated me. A woman like you doesn't deserve to be a mother. Only then did I understand. True hell isn't death. It's being misunderstood, trampled, and personally pushed into the abyss by the one you deeply love. Marcus stopped Leo's medical payments for 3 days, critically comatose. Leo was moved from the ICU to the bathroom because of the unpaid bills. I knelt outside their room, almost banging my head raw. An entire night of torrential rain couldn't drown out the sounds of their pleasure from inside the room. Not until dawn did Marcus, sated, open the door. I crawled forward. Before I could even speak, he slapped me to the ground again. Grace, it's been a whole year. How much longer are you going to put on this sob story? Tears blurred my vision. Ignoring the burning sting on my face, I groveled at his feet again. I'm not acting, please. Quickly deposit money into Leo's medical account. I'll do whatever you want. His idealized love, Chloe, finally nodded in satisfaction. Darling, seeing how pathetic Grace is, why don't you grant her wish? Marcus frowned. Grace, aren't you going to thank Ms. Chloe properly? Do you want Leo's life-saving money next time or not? But he didn't know our son was already dead. It happened the second before the medical account deposit notification arrived. The hospital first sent me photos of Leo's tragic death in the bathroom, on the floor. He had used his last ounce of strength to write in blood, Mommy, I'm finally not your burden anymore. That crimson message, like daggers, etched itself into my heart. Stab by painful stab, tears poured down, like a broken dam, completely uncontrollable. Marcus's eyes were full of impatience. He grabbed me by the hair. Grace, haven't I already made the payment? Who are you crying for now? I told you to thank Ms. Chloe. You're just standing there. Do you not want tomorrow's medical fees? My heart ached to the point of suffocation. Our son had already died due to unpaid bills. Yet he was still using Leo's life to threaten me, make me thank the murderer who caused his death. How could I possibly do that? With red-rimmed eyes, I glared at the two murderers. Who gave you the courage to look at me with such eyes? Another slap landed on the other side of my face. With a click, my phone slipped from my grasp. Marcus froze, staring at the photo of Leo's tragic death on the screen. His idealized love, Chloe, squatted down and picked up the phone. Grace really goes to great lengths to win attention. Not only are the photos so realistic, but she even convinced Leo to act along with her. Leo is a good child. Don't let certain people lead him astray. Marcus's face instantly darkened. Grace, is what Ms. Chloe said true? My heart was bitter. That was clearly a photo of his son's death, yet, with just a little provocation from others, he believed it. The words of protest reached my lips, but I swallowed them back down. I knew that even if I spoke, Marcus, already swayed, wouldn't believe me. Seeing my indifference, Marcus grew even angrier. He raised his foot and kicked me across the floor. Grace, you were the one who killed our unborn second son back then. Now you're making Leo act with you. You're practically inhuman, completely unfit to be a mother. Tomorrow, I'm going to have Chloe raise Leo. As he spoke, he raised his foot to kick my stomach again. I quickly covered my belly and crawled on my knees to Chloe's feet. I thank you, Ms. Chloe. I thank you for your great compassion in saving my son. You are my savior. I will do anything you ask me to do from now on. I repeatedly kowtowed to her. Chloe pulled back her foot in disgust. Just thanks. What fun is that? Sister darling, and I haven't cleaned up our battlefield from last night yet. I'll leave this for you to do. Then I'll tell darling to transfer tomorrow's medical fee in advance. I looked up into the room. The chaotic mess on the floor and the foul stains on the bed. It was as if they were deliberately humiliating me. A clear proof that stung my heart. The lingering unpleasant smell made me almost vomit. Seeing my delay, Marcus frowned in displeasure. Grace, what are you waiting for? Waiting for your son to die so you can collect his body? Grace, do you really care about your son's life or death? All you care about is whether you can continue your lavish life as Mrs. Hayes, don't you? I'm telling you from now on, you're just a dog for Ms. Chloe and me to call upon. If you don't clean this place up today, don't even think about leaving. He didn't know that Leo in the hospital was no longer a leverage over me, but I still silently entered the room, suppressing the discomfort in my stomach, and began to clean. What I truly needed to protect now was the child in my belly. He was my everything now. I couldn't be as foolish as last time and let anything happen to him. However, as soon as I stepped into the room, the heavy breathing of the two people behind me grew louder. Darling, no. Grace is watching. How long has it been since you've been with her? Aren't we being too cruel? Chloe refused coquettishly, yet her body pressed closer to him. Cruel? Did she think about cruelty when she, with her big belly, went engaging in wild acts with those thugs, causing our second son, who was due any day, to die in her womb? Marcus remained expressionless, thrusting violently, as if releasing all the resentment in his heart. Hearing what he said, my heart felt as if it had been violently seized. It was because of our second son's miscarriage that the domineering CEO who once cherished me had turned into this madman who would savagely trample me into the dirt, but I was also a victim in that incident. I had already booked the hospital, just waiting for him to return and take me in for delivery. Instead, I received a message telling me to go to the hospital by myself. On the way to the hospital with the driver, our vehicle was hijacked by a group of the thugs. I cried, offering all my money, begging them to let me go. My baby is about to be born. Please let me go. I have plenty of money. I'll give you whatever you want. But they threw the money and valuables I offered aside. Ignoring my desperate pleas, they pinned me to the seat and brutally abused me. Blood and amniotic fluid flowed from below, yet he grew even more excited. They didn't scatter and flee from the car until I convulsed and lost consciousness. Only then did the driver slowly drive the car to the hospital. Though I miraculously survived, my baby died prematurely. The unspeakable physical and mental torment made me want to end it all. But when Leo appeared by my hospital bed, clenching his small fists and telling me to be strong, I clung to life for his sake. Marcus reappeared many days after the incident. I held his hand, pleading him to catch those culprits, but he disgustedly shook my hand away. The driver already told me you actively arranged to meet those thugs and forced him to drive around the city without stopping. Grace, you're truly disgusting. Wasn't I enough for you? Were you that desperate? Couldn't you have waited just one more day? I collapsed to the ground, unable to believe that the distant relative who had once begged me to be his driver would stab me in the back. It's not like that. Marcus, believe me, right? There's dashcam footage, pull it up, and the truth will be clear. Marcus's face was grim as he slammed a tablet onto my face. I already retrieved the video. See for yourself. I opened the tablet, and the dashcam footage was on the screen, suppressing my inner terror. I trembled as I pressed play. But after only a few seconds, I froze in the video. I was actually pinning the thugs beneath me, enjoying it the whole time. Grace, what else do you have to say? Marcus's eyes were like burning coals, fixed on my face. Marcus, this video isn't real. They forged it. Grace, you disappoint me too much. Have you forgotten that I'm from a tech background? There are no signs of editing or forgery in this video. Marcus, perhaps you can't tell? Go find a professional forensics lab to authenticate it. In my haste to prove my innocence, I overlooked some details. Slap. A loud slap landed on my face. Grace, wasn't playing with those thugs enough for you? Now you want to spread your disgusting video all over the world? Grace, I never thought you'd be so depraved. I'll make you regret this. Marcus was always a man of his word from then on. He launched a relentless campaign of revenge against me. For his sake, I endured it all, but my patience and compromises only made them escalate their cruelty. It wasn't until my son, Leo, tragically died in the hospital that I realized I had been completely wrong. Giving in would not bring my child's safety. When I had my prenatal checkup this time, the doctor told me that due to the trauma from the previous late-term miscarriage, this child might be my last chance to conceive. So, even though he was Marcus's child, I had to carry him to term. This was my only hope of being a mother in this lifetime. My forced endurance of the nausea, cleaning up their mess this time, would be my last act of compromise. Once I escape from here, Mommy will take you far away. I caressed my belly, murmuring to him. He playfully kicked my hand resting on my belly. It was his first interaction with me. I couldn't help but remember when I was pregnant with Leo, the first time Marcus interacted with him through my belly. He was as excited as a child, vowing on the spot to protect us, mother and son, for a lifetime. But now, Leo had just died, and he was already being intimate with another woman. Thinking of this, my tears flowed again, dumping the last bucket of foul-smelling trash. I had finished cleaning their room. They also finished at that moment. Marcus helped a delicate Chloe, who seemed boneless, walk into the room. Wow, sister, you're amazing. You cleaned the room so quickly? Darling, Every time we're done, let sister clean up. That way she can earn more of her medical fees. I lowered my head, not looking at them. The room is clean. Can I go now? No. Chloe immediately interrupted me. Sister worked so hard. I want Leo to reward sister. Saying this, she walked to the nightstand and pulled open the drawer. She suddenly shrieked, Sister, I was trying to help you. How could you do this to me? Chloe took out 2 voodoo dolls from the drawer and threw them to the floor. Marcus rushed over and picked up the 2 dolls from the ground. Each doll had their names and birth details written on them, and they were stuck with many needles. Especially the doll with Chloe's name. Its belly was densely covered with needles. Sister must be jealous that I'm also pregnant with darling's son. That's why she did this. Saying this, she started crying pitifully. Marcus's eyes turned red. He rushed over and threw the 2 dolls at my face. Grace, you're simply beyond redemption. How could you even think of such a method? You don't want to have my children, and you won't let anyone else have them either, you wicked woman. I'm divorcing you. The sharp steel needles cut my skin. Blood streamed down my face. He still so easily believed others. My heart chilled to the extreme at that moment. I coldly raised my eyes and looked at him. Marcus, are you serious? He was startled. His face instantly fell. Chloe walked over and took his hand. Darling, I told you long ago that sister doesn't love you, didn't I? She's been planning this all along, just waiting for you to propose divorce so she can get a share of your fortune. Marcus looked at me, full of disdain. Grace, is what she said true? I'm telling you, you've probably made a mistake here. After divorcing me, you won't get a single penny. I took out several pre-prepared divorce agreements from my bag and handed them over. Marcus, if you're willing to let my child and me leave, I'm willing to leave with nothing. Chloe snorted. I guessed right again, didn't I? She'll hold the child hostage in the future, constantly demanding money from you. Isn't that better than just getting a one-time settlement? Marcus was again swayed by Chloe. Grace, just tell me how much money you want. Leo certainly won't go with you. I glared bitterly at the 2 people in front of me. Leo is already dead. After saying just that, I was once again choked with sobs. Enough. If you talk nonsense again, I'll rip your mouth apart. Marcus clenched his fists and took a few steps towards me. Chloe stepped in, stopping him. Darling, let me try to persuade sister. Women understand women best. Sister, you too, you're Leo's mother. How can you keep cursing your own child? Saying this, she leaned down and whispered in my ear, Sister, I know Leo is dead. I personally arranged it. Also, those thugs back then were arranged by me too. They were quite aggressive. And you enjoyed it, didn't you? My son is about to be born. What is your brat? Darling's inheritance can only be passed on to my son. Anger instantly surged to my head. With eyes wide with fury, I lunged and tackled her to the ground. My hands fiercely squeezed her neck. Murderer, give me back my child. I roared like a madwoman. Grace, what are you doing? Marcus rushed over and kicked me off Chloe. My belly slammed into the corner of the wall. Excruciating pain instantly spread throughout my body. A warm liquid flowed from beneath me. I was just trying to persuade sister to stop lying and let Leo out of the basement to go to school normally, and she did this to me. Chloe flung herself into Marcus's arms, crying as if her heart would break. She even said she'd have her thug friends come tonight and get rid of the baby in her belly. Marcus, like a red-eyed lion, rushed over and kicked my stomach fiercely. You can't have children, and you still want to harm another's child in the belly? Why don't you just die? I squatted down, desperately trying to protect my belly, but it was all in vain. Amidst the sharp pain, I felt something flow out from my belly, my child. Seeing the blood on the floor, Marcus also froze. What blood is this? Grace, what's in your belly? I was curled up on the ground in so much pain I couldn't make a sound. Sister's belly was already destroyed by the thugs, wasn't it? What else could be in there besides filth? Could it be that sister couldn't bear listening from outside last night and called her thug friends for help again? Is that why there's blood coming from her? Chloe said viciously. Seeing still hesitant, she suddenly clutched her stomach and groaned, collapsing. Darling, sister sat on my belly just now. It hurts so much. Our baby. Marcus no longer hesitated. He immediately rushed to her, picked her up, and started walking out. Grace, if anything happens to the child in her belly, I'll hold you accountable. Looking at the blood covering the floor, and the already formed flesh in it, I could no longer suppress the pain in my heart and burst into tears. I failed to protect my last child after all. In one day, I had lost 2 children, my stomach hurt, but my heart hurt even more, to the point of suffocation. All 3 of my children were gone, there was nothing left here that I cared about. I endured the pain and took out the flight ticket I had booked earlier. Goodbye, Marcus, you can spend your life together with the real murderer of your 3 children. Marcus had booked a hospital room for Chloe on the way. Upon arrival at the hospital, the doctor immediately began the examination. During the examination, he felt somewhat uneasy. Why had Grace bled so much just now? And in that blood, it seemed something was moving. He had truly been furious just now. He shouldn't have hit Grace so hard. He quickly called his assistant, instructing him to pick up Grace from home. After all, he had already called back the best doctor here. It would be good to have her treated as well, however. The assistant informed him that Grace had already left on her own. How could she have left, being so severely injured? It seemed Chloe was right. Grace had just been faking it this time. Chloe's examination results came back. Ms. Chloe had a threatened miscarriage. If she had been brought in any later, she would have miscarried. She needs bed rest in the hospital. The doctor's eyes flickered as he said this. Marcus comforted Chloe in the room for a long time. Finally, he transferred $5.2 million to her and promised to give her the villa under Grace's name. Only then did Chloe cease her demands. Marcus walked down the hospital corridor. He suddenly felt empty, as if a gaping hole had been torn through his chest. It hurt terribly. He walked aimlessly forward, unknowingly reaching the ICU ward. Grace was truly despicable. For money, she would even deceive him by saying Leo was critically ill in the ICU. If hadn't casually stumbled upon Grace's conversation with Leo, he would still have been kept in the dark. Perhaps he was also to blame for not being careful enough. He had been there for over a year. What kind of illness could a child so young have that required a year in the ICU? Grace's story was also full of holes. He had merely refrained from exposing her out of consideration for their marriage anyway. Paying her a sum of money every day meant she wouldn't go out and cause trouble with those thugs, which was quite cost-effective. After all, if others found out he had been cuckolded by the thugs, it would also affect his and Hayes's image. Once recovered, he would have to warn Grace again. As the president of the corporation's wife, she had to always be mindful of her words and actions. If she continued to act so recklessly, he could no longer show consideration for their marriage. She thought that by giving birth to a son, she had done enough for a lifetime, but as the president of the corporation, how insecure was it to have only one son? If one day, something unexpected happened to his only son, wouldn't the entire Hayes benefit outsiders for free? Now that Grace couldn't have more children, he had no choice but to let Chloe bear him a son. Yet, even then, Grace still wanted to get rid of the child in Chloe's belly. Children were his bottom line. They were absolutely not to be touched. Grace had crossed that line today, which was why he had lost control so completely. Thinking this, he turned and passed the ICU ward. Just as he encountered the nurses changing shifts, he inadvertently overheard a sentence, "Patient 42 in critical care. Leo has died." He froze instantly, thinking he had misheard. He rushed into the nurses' station. "Who did you say died?" The nurses looked him up and down. "Leo, the son of Marcus, the president of Hayes. Speaking of that president, he's quite peculiar. He's so rich, yet he pays for his son's treatment daily. And the president's wife has been pregnant for 4 months, yet she's malnourished and so thin her belly doesn't show. I suspect that president is an abuser. I've seen scars on his wife more than once, certainly. I once saw her kowtowing frantically to a young woman in the hospital bathroom, banging her head until it bled, just to get Marcus to deposit money into her son's treatment account. Only then did the woman speak up for her. That woman is President Mistress. And you say that child might not be President biological son, right? Is that why he's so cruelly abusing both mother and child? Marcus froze instantly. So Grace had been telling the truth all along. Leo had really been hospitalized, and he was in critical care. He grabbed a nurse by the shoulder, shaking her frantically. "Where is Leo? Where did you take him?" The nurse was terrified. She recoiled in horror. "Are you insane? Who are you?" "I am Marcus, the one you're talking about." The nurses also froze, realizing they had said too much. This was all just what we heard from others. "And perhaps he just has the same name as your son? You're so rich, you surely wouldn't pay for your son's treatment daily, would you? If that child's father was you, he wouldn't have died tragically in the bathroom because of 3 days of unpaid treatment fees." Marcus's heart suddenly throbbed with pain. He really had suspended Leo's treatment fees for 3 days. For that, Grace had knelt outside his room for 3 days, begging, and had also shown him a photo and cried, telling him Leo had died tragically in the hospital bathroom. It was just that at the time, he had been blinded by Chloe's words. He thought Grace was fabricating a story to deceive him. He suddenly rushed into the bathroom like a madman. Leo was no longer there. Only a dilapidated stretcher remained. On the stretcher was the melodica he had given to Leo, that still had it with him in his last moments, showed how much he cherished this gift. But it was only a cheap item Marcus had bought on a street stall for Leo's birthday last year. The blood message on the floor had been cleaned, but the marks were still faintly visible. "Mommy, I'm finally not your burden anymore." It was identical to the picture on Grace's phone. That photo wasn't photoshopped. It was he who had personally killed his own son. Marcus collapsed to the ground in despair, crying like a child. He raised his hand and slapped his own face, hard, again and again. The doctors and nurses stood at the doorway, looking at Marcus, who was like a madman in the bathroom. That child, could he have been his biological son? "This is bad," quickly informed the dean. No sooner had their words fallen than Marcus suddenly looked up. Like a lion who had lost its cub, he glared fiercely at them. "You all killed my child. You incompetent doctors. What use is this hospital that doesn't save lives?" He stood up, grabbed the mop from the bathroom, rushed out, and started smashing the hospital equipment. Marcus's assistant and bodyguards, who had just arrived, also joined in the destruction. Soon, the ICU was in utter chaos. Just then, the dean also rushed over upon hearing the commotion. Seeing the expensive equipment being smashed, he felt pained and pounded his chest and stamped his feet. Seeing him, Marcus found an outlet for his rage. He grabbed the mop and charged at him. The dean was so scared he dropped to his knees before Chairman with a thud. "Chairman, that child. It was Ms. Chloe who said he was your illegitimate son and that you wanted to get rid of him. That's why we stopped the treatment." Marcus, who had rushed to the dean's front, froze. The mop he had raised high also hung stiffly in midair. He recalled carefully that much of the information about Grace and her son had been revealed by Chloe. At that moment, his phone rang. It was a call from the forensics lab. After had desperately argued earlier today that the dashcam video of her with the thugs in the car was fake, he had forced himself to watch it closely again. He saw that the Grace in the video had some physical features that were different from hers, but she also looked very familiar. Especially after the video was halfway through, the image of Grace's face suddenly glitched through, revealing another person's features underneath. Marcus realized something was wrong and quickly sent the video to a professional forensics lab for authentication. Now the conclusion had arrived. This video is AI synthesized. The original person in the video is someone else. Attached was also the recovered original video. With just one glance, Marcus's eyes widened. The woman in the video was none other than Chloe, who he currently doted on. It was she who was intimately engaging with those thugs. Then's face and body had been superimposed. That was why Marcus hadn't recognized it immediately. Marcus ordered his men to seize the driver. He threw the phone in front of him. The driver immediately trembled like a sieve and confessed everything at once. He was a gambling addict and had accumulated high gambling debts, which Chloe had used as leverage. Thus, she blackmailed him into framing Grace previously. He had sought to borrow money from Grace to pay off his gambling debts and had been lectured by her. He held a grudge because of this and readily agreed to Chloe's request. First, under her command, he took her and the thugs for a wild time. Then, he took Grace, allowing the thugs to abuse her until she miscarried. "Chairman, I had no choice. She forced me. She threatened me, saying that if I didn't do as she said, she would make my life hell." "You did that. And you weren't afraid Grace would make your life hell? She's my lawful wife." Marcus gritted his teeth, staring at the driver. The driver stammered, unable to speak clearly. We all said that you doted on Ms. Chloe so much that she would be officially recognized as your partner sooner or later. Besides, Mrs. Hayes doesn't have that kind of influence by your side, does she? Otherwise, Ms. Chloe wouldn't have been able to repeatedly harm her and your son. And you wouldn't have been indifferent. Marcus felt all his strength drain away instantly. Ultimately, all of this was indeed his fault. It was his tacit approval that led his subordinates to fawn over Chloe while bullying Grace, even though Grace was his lawful wife. The president of the corporation's wife, even a small driver from the company, dared to boldly bully her with impunity. "Chairman, I've confessed everything I know. Can you please spare me?" The driver knelt on the ground, pleading bitterly. Marcus kicked him to the ground. Go to the police station and ask the police for forgiveness. Saying this, he instructed his bodyguards to call the police. Amidst the driver's pleas, Marcus, with red eyes, walked upstairs without a word. All of today's events were due to Chloe's deliberate machinations. She had killed his child, causing friction between him and Grace, his wife. How could he easily spare her, the culprit? When he arrived at the hospital room door, Chloe was on a video call with someone, chatting amiably, not at all looking like she was about to miscarry. Darling, don't worry. I've already gotten rid of their children. Our son will definitely inherit his inheritance. And if he's born looking like one of the thugs, don't worry. I'll just say it's a genetic mutation. Then well, just fake a DNA paternity test and get away with it. After all, he's so foolish. Even though his wife loves him so much, with just a few simple tricks from us, we made him hate her to his core. Marcus's teeth ground loudly, his fists clenched, his fingernails digging into his flesh. He kicked the door open and rushed inside. Chloe, who was on the video call, immediately threw her phone aside, lay on her side on the bed, covered her stomach, and complained coquettishly, "Ow, my tummy, darling, be gentler next time you enter. You've scared the babies." Marcus ignored her, rushed over, and yanked her up. "Who were you just talking to on the phone?" His eyes were wide with fury, scaring Chloe into trembling. No one. Saying this, she tried to hide the phone behind her back. Marcus's bodyguard snatched the phone away. He unlocked it in front of Chloe. Looking at the explosive chat records between Chloe and the thugs in the messaging app, Marcus's entire body began to tremble uncontrollably. He could no longer suppress the rage in his heart. His fist swung down at Chloe. Chloe was covered in blood, curled up on the ground, her eyes filled with terror. She clutched her stomach, feigning a pitiful expression again. "Darling, I have your baby in my belly. You can't do this to me." Hearing baby, Marcus's eyes grew even redder. Baby? A thug's baby? Fake DNA? The more Marcus spoke, the angrier he became. His fists landed on her belly again and again, until foul-smelling blood pooled on the floor beneath her. How disgusting. Marcus spat a mouthful of saliva at Chloe. Marcus wandered through the city streets like a soulless man. He searched every corner of the entire city, but he never found any trace of Grace. After dealing with Chloe at the hospital, he immediately sent the video to Grace. However, Grace had blocked him. He called Grace again, but it kept showing as busy. He instantly panicked and quickly drove home, but wasn't there. Only then did he remember that the housekeeper had told him Grace had left home on her own. He quickly went to the basement where Grace slept. Her things were still there. Even her wedding ring, which she cherished as a treasure, lay safely in her safe. She had no family or friends in this city. Where could she have gone? She would come back eventually, but it was already midnight, and Grace still hadn't returned. Marcus called and ordered the group's vice president to gather everyone and search every corner of the city overnight for Grace. Yet, they still didn't find Grace. She had vanished into thin air, as if from this world. "Grace, where have you gone? Grace, please come back. I want to atone for my sins. I want to beg for your forgiveness." Marcus had to drink himself utterly intoxicated every day to fall asleep. Marcus would never have guessed that I had returned to the place where we first met. The place he once swore we would spend our golden years together after he retired. This place was Seaview. When we honeymooned there, I instantly fell in love with it. He must have long forgotten this place when I followed my memory to the cottage I had seen back then. 7 years had passed, but it still stood as it had, nestled in Lakeside. Grace loved the tranquility here, so she found the owner of the house and took it over. She converted it into a small bakery. When was alive, he loved bread the most. She had once promised him that she would open a bakery for him someday, offering him delicious bread every day. Grace brought all the children's ashes and buried them in the sunny part of the yard. There, she planted all kinds of flowers. Different flowers would bloom throughout the seasons. Amidst the buzzing bees and dancing butterflies, they wouldn't be lonely anymore. Life continued this way, and Grace finally experienced a period of peace. Just as Grace was about to forget Marcus, he appeared outside her yard. After only a few months apart, he looked as if he had aged 10 years, gaunt and broken. Even his once thick, lustrous hair had turned gray. He stood there, far away, for several days, but he kept hesitating, not daring to approach, until that day of pouring rain. Grace finally took an umbrella and walked out. The moment he saw her, his eyes brightened. "I knew you'd forgive me." He reached out, trying to take her hand. Grace quickly stepped aside. "Mr. Marcus, please have some self-respect, and I advise you not to flatter yourself. I'm just afraid you'd die at my front door and defile the path in front of it." Marcus frowned. "Grace, stop acting childish. I was wrong before. And I apologize to you. I caused you so much pain, but I've avenged you against everyone who hurt you." As he spoke, he pulled out his phone and brought up the footage he claimed was his revenge for her. The first was a video of Chloe and the thugs being forced into a fatal frenzy. Grace slapped it to the ground. "Marcus, do you think I have to forgive you just because you did all this?" A hint of loss flickered in Marcus's eyes, but then he tried again. "Grace, tell me, what will it take for you to forgive me?" "I'll do anything. After all, we're not divorced yet. We're still husband and wife. There are no long-standing grudges between a couple, right?" "Husband and wife?" "Marcus, the moment you were involved in illicit activities with Chloe, we ceased to be husband and wife. I was only tied to you because of our children. But now the children are gone, and I have nothing left to hold me back. Marcus, if you come here again tomorrow, don't blame me for being unwelcoming. I'll call the police directly." Marcus immediately panicked. No. Please don't call the police. I escaped, Marcus. I advise you to go back and turn yourself in." With that, Grace turned and went back inside without looking back. That night, Marcus lingered outside her front door in the heavy rain for a long time before finally leaving reluctantly. From then on, Grace never received any news from him again. Later, a friend told Grace that Marcus had been sentenced to immediate imprisonment. He originally had a chance for probation, but he intentionally took all the blame during the trial. While speaking, the friend looked at Grace's expression. Grace smiled faintly, offering no response. Later, after his sentence was carried out, the police contacted Grace to go back and handle the relevant procedures. As his only primary heir, Grace received all his belongings, including all the assets he had given to Chloe, but considered them tainted. She disposed of all of them. Then she returned to this city, accompanied by her children. Grace would spend the remaining seasons of her life